The Lunaverse, Episode 11. Scootalong to the Cheer by Blackbelt. Chapter 6. Spying? At this time of night? Apology my left hoof. They planned everything! Thank you, raindrops, Cheerilee said coldly, keeping her pure, unbridled rage out of her voice. She then gasped past raindrops, looking at the two monsters that found themselves on their doorstep. Explain yourselves. What are you two doing spying on me? Scootaloo was first to speak. We weren't spying. We were just... Quiet! Cheerilee hissed, causing Scootaloo to flinch with fear. You two were caught red-hoofed. Now tell me the truth. What exactly are you two planning? Cheerilee looked at two fillies with a glare that filled them both with dread. Lyra placed a hoof on Cheerilee's shoulder. Cheerilee, aren't you being a little hard on them? I mean... No, Lyra, I don't, Cheerilee said, not taking her glare off the two fillies. If anything, I have been far too easy upon these students. I'll ask you one last time. What were you planning? Cheerilee maintained her glare. Lyra kept attempting to get Cheerilee to reconsider. Raindrops watched the scene unfold with curious trepidation. Scootaloo was unable to speak, too afraid to make Cheerilee any matter, and Tiara carefully considered her next move. Scootaloo came here to apologize! Tiara yelled. Everyone else stared at Tiara, but Cheerilee's glare did not soften. Sure, you get caught, so you suddenly decide to apologize for everything. I can believe that. Cheerilee's voice dripped with sarcasm. There's a gift basket sitting in the wagon for you right over there, Tiara Karen, pointing a hoof to the wagon in question. The stare down between teacher and student continued. Both of their expressions unreadable. I am going to get into so much trouble, but I can protect Scootaloo. Raindrops, Cheerilee eventually said, could you go check on their wagon? Raindrops slowly nodded and walked off with a sidelong glance. Raindrops soon came upon the wagon and saw that Tiara said was true. There was a small basket, filled with what appeared to be gifts. I think I owe them an apology, Raindrops thought to herself, as he picked the basket in her teeth and walked back to the scene of the stare-down. As he very calmly put the basket down in front of Scootaloo. Scootaloo picked up the basket and slowly walked up to her teacher. She gently placed it on Cheerilee's hooves. The young filly risked and glanced upwards. The worn and weary mare only stared down at her student, causing Scootaloo to shudder in fear once again, as he tried to desperately think of what to say. Scootaloo gulped, trying to find her sorry voice. I'm sorry! She finally blurted out. Cheerilee looked at the gift basket in front of her. Blackberry drops. My favorite, she thought solemnly. Lyra was right. I've been wallowing all day, and yet Scootaloo was worried about me all day. I could have just talked to her. After school, or in the alley, or instead of yelling at her when she tried to explain just now. I'm a terrible teacher. Cheerilee was about to apologize to her young student when a single stray thought of paranoia entered her mind. What if this is all a trick? Is he tampered with the food? A flurry of images went through Cheerilee's head. Breathing fire from eating a blazing hot pepper, sneezing uncontrollably, blacking out, having used the little filly's room for hours on end, and finally a vision of a simple tombstone that bore a most ominous inscription upon it. Here lies Black Cheerilee Punch. Curse my love of delicious, delicious candy! Through all this, the sound of a certain young Pegasus filly laughing filled Cheerilee's head. A vile, wicked laugh, full of delight. Delight Cheerilee's pain. The whole experience made Cheerilee shudder involuntarily. She wanted to scream, to tell Scootaloo to get away from her. She stared down at her tormentor, ready to tell this vile miscreant off once and for all, ready to expel her from school, ready to run the little demon out of town, using whatever force necessary to make it happen. And couldn't bring herself to do any of that when she saw the torrent of tears that was falling from the young filly's eyes. And you're the best teacher I could ever hope for. You're always willing to spend time with your students. You always greet everybody with a smile. You help save the world, and you're nice to everyone, even an idiot like me. Cheerilee wrapped her foes around Scootaloo, pulling the Pegasus into a tight hug. I should be the one saying sorry, Cheerilee said simply, tears running down her eyes as well. Raindrops, Lyra, Diamond Tiara looked upon the two with relieved looks on her face. Oh, that is so adorable, Lyra thought, a smile coming to her face. I wish I could have Scootaloo out of nowhere like that. Oh, great. I'm jealous of my teacher, Diamond Tiara thought, a small scowl forming on her face. But I'm glad everything worked out. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried I would have to try to subdue Cheerilee. Never again. Raindrops let out a breath she had been holding. Two fillies and their teacher walked under the night through Ponyville. Or more accurately, one filly was scooting along on a scooter at a snail's pace, hardly untrained at riding the vehicle, while one was riding on the back of a mare, sound asleep. The filly directing the scooter took the opportunity to tell the teacher what happened. And then Snail's big sister saw us and thought we were spying. Diamond Tiara finished her story. The scooter she was riding wobbling too far much for comfort. Cheerilee was silent for a moment, taking in the story of Scootaloo's day. Looks like I could have saved both of us a hard day, she thought barely, as she took a moment to look at the young filly but there was something about the story that bugged her. But why were you helping Scootaloo? Cheerilee asked. Like I said, I needed a partner for the school talent show, Diamond Tiara said simply. And the fact that she's amazing. But you spent all those bits. I mean, I don't know how much your allowances is, but it seems like a lot. I can get bits anytime from Daddy, anytime I want, she declared. But Cheerilee still thought there was something else to it. She didn't have too much time to really consider it until the cart repair shop came into view. Cheerilee knocked on the door, but no one answered. Heavy Roller isn't home. I wonder where he is. And then the lovely Lunaverse smites the mighty Salamander back from winter time. Ah, sweet little moon, I love you, babe. That's so awesome. A very drunk Heavy Roller replied, completely enamored with Lunaverse's somewhat inaccurate story of what happened during the Evening Time Festival. Cheerilee figured Heavy Roller wouldn't mind if she just went to put his daughter to bed. She went through the door, followed closely by Diamond Tiara, who took the opportunity to ditch the scooter and wagon next to a pile of assorted broken wheels. The teacher headed up the stairs and turned toward her crowded student. Stay down here, Diamond Tiara, she instructed. But I have to write enough for Scootaloo, Diamond Tiara responded quickly. And I wanted to wish her good night. Cheerilee shook her head. I know you want to start early on getting ready for the talent show, but do you really think it would be a good idea to start tomorrow, especially after how day went? I know it's a terrible idea to put together a whole new performance after a situation like this stressful, but it's the only way I can spend time with her. And she looks so cute when she's asleep. BAM! And besides, Cheerilee interrupted Diamond Tiara's inner monologue, there's some crayons and paper right there. Cheerilee pointed a hoof at what Diamond Tiara recognized as the small mess Scootaloo made in a rush to get to Cheerilee's house once they finished the cart they made. Diamond Tiara took one last look at Scootaloo and whispered a very soft good night, grabbed the crayon, and began to write, satisfied that her student would keep busy with her note. Cheerilee carefully made her way up the stairs, doing her best not to wake the Pegasus on her back. She made her way up to the second floor and glanced around the dark room. Wouldn't be the first time I had to navigate a house completely in the dark, she thought to herself, slightly amused, looking around the living room until she saw the beanbag chair sitting in the corner of the living room. Thinking for a moment, Cheerilee decided it would do. She poked the beanbag chair with her hoof, ensuring it was sufficiently soft, then laid the Pegasus on top of it. I had to stop for a few seconds and just say, my diameter is increasing, and it's hurting. Ow! She was ready to head back downstairs and escort her other student back home, until she heard a small groan coming from Scootaloo. Honey, don't go. Scootaloo kicked her hooves in her sleep, looking as if she was having a nightmare. Cheerilee softly patted Scootaloo on the head, which seemed to calm her down. Mommy, Scootaloo said again, this time sounding much less distressed. before drifting back into a restful sleep once more. With one last look to ensure that her students' sleep would be restful, Cheerilee made her way back down the stairs. She saw Diamond Tiara staring intently at a piece of paper with some writing Cheerilee couldn't quite make out. Then Cheerilee saw something very odd. Diamond Tiara grabbed a piece of paper, stuffed it into her saddlebag, and quickly wrote another note, which she placed on Scootaloo's skewer. And unless Cheerilee wanted to ask about this, she thought it better not to ask. Didn't stop her from glancing back at the note she had held, though.
Hey, Scoot, you fell asleep, so we dragged you home. Don't forget that we have to work on our performance for the talent show. So I expect you at my house bright and early and be ready for work. Don't be late. Diamond Tiara.
I'll let Scootaloo handle it. Back at home, locked in the sanctity of her room, Diamond Tiara stared at the letter she wanted to give to Scootaloo.
Oh, why can't I just let the words out?
Dear Scootaloo, you fell asleep in Cheerilee's house, so she carried you home. I'm glad everything worked out for the best, and I appreciate the fact that you let me help. I look forward to preparing for the school talent show. You can feel free to come by whenever you feel up to it. I know it's been very stressful for you, so please, don't push yourself too hard. Love, Diamond Tiara. She lamented her indecisiveness as she dug through her saddlebags, pulling out the things she had bought that day.
You have a week, DT.
Look at determination, accompanied by a small blush at the thought of that cute nickname, came to Diamond Tiara's face.
You can do this. All you have to do is give her some gifts. Say what's on your mind. You can do it. You can.
A train of thought crashed immediately when she came across something in her bag that wasn't supposed to be there. She carefully pulled out the small item in her hooves, treating it as if it was the most valuable thing in the world. She marveled at its splendor, rotating it so she could look at every angle of it, amazed at how it caught the light. Diamond Tiara dared not question how such sheer wonderment would end up in her possession. But she knew better than to question a miracle. Eventually, a yawn escaped her lips. But she did not want to go to sleep. But ultimately, she did succumb to sleep, falling asleep on the floor. A feather for Scootaloo's wings resting in her hooves. And now, Miss Cheerilee's class of Ponyville, year of our Lunar Reign 1001, is now proud to present the School Talent Show! Yes, the webisode, Lunaverse, School Talent Show by Blackbelt. Chapter 1, only chapter. A loud ring filled the air as the sun rose upon the small town of Ponyville. Diamond Tiara grumbled to herself, waving her hoof around to hit her alarm clock. It took her a few seconds to realize her alarm clock was not next to her, as it usually was. It took a few more seconds to realize that it was not the clock that was misplaced, but rather herself that was misplaced. Her eyes slowly opened, the cursed sun's rays hitting her in the eyes. She slowly lifted herself off the floor, and began to wonder why exactly she was on the floor until she saw it. A single orange feather. Suddenly, the events of yesterday flooded into her mind. That, and the realization that Scootaloo could potentially be coming over to her house at any second, and Diamond Tiara looked like a mess, all because of the excitement scootering yesterday, not to mention the fact that she still had no idea her act was going to be for the school talent show, and Scootaloo was coming, and Despacito! Diamond Tiara yelled, running out of the room, but not before carefully placing the feather in the top drawer of her dresser, where she knew it would be absolutely safe. Diamond Tiara sat on her plush couch in her lavishly designed living room, her mane and fur freshly cleaned and brushed, an expensive-looking purple dress, made of fine silk, adorning her frame, her trademark tiara sitting upon her head, freshly polished. Diamond Tiara's eyes remained focused on the front floor, waiting for a certain sun pony to approach it and knock upon it. Dustbuster had attempted to inform her young charge that most children wouldn't be up at 8 in the morning on a Saturday, but Diamond Tiara had quickly and summarily ignored her. That had been 2 hours ago. Diamond Tiara was beginning to suspect that Dustbuster was right.
If Scootaloo even decides to show up at all.
The young filly thought bitterly to herself, sighing softly. She moved to lift herself off the pillow, intent to head back to her room, when a noise filled the air.
Oh, dear sweet moon and the stars above, it's Scootaloo! Deep breath, DT. Just because she's over at your house with the full intention of spending the majority of the day with you is no reason to be nervous.
Diamond Tiara shook her head, banishing her inner monologue from her head as she approached the door. Opening it with haste, she hoped to appear to be normal speed one would open the door at. It did not occur to her that there may, in fact, be somebody else at the door instead of the Pegasus in question. Fortunately for every pony involved, Scootaloo stood on the other side of the door, a well-rested look on her face, and looking as
beautiful and energetic and happy and amazing as ever. About time you showed up! Come on, we have work to do!
Diamond Tiara said, welcoming her cross in as nightly as one could with a somewhat haughty hoof point. Scootaloo chose to merely follow the hoof. Diamond Tiara noticed that Scootaloo's scooter was parked to the side, leaning against their house, the wagon behind it holding what looked like, of all things, a pair of bongos. Diamond Tiara chose not to ask why Scootaloo went through the trouble of bringing a pair of bongos. Because bongos is a silly word! And really walked back into her house, taking a seat on her comfortable house, and offered a guest seat next to her. But still not as close as she would have liked. So, DT, what's the plan for this talent show? Scootaloo asked, sounding far more relaxed than she had during the entirety of yesterday. Diamond Tiara rose up at the question.
I never came up with the idea for an act.
The Earth Pony steeled herself, ready for the incoming complaints as he weakly admitted,
I never actually had an idea for what we were going to do during the talent show.
Diamond Tiara admitted, looking away.
It's okay if you want to leave.
Her spirits lifted the instant Scootaloo spoke. That's no problem. That just means we can come up with something totally awesome to knock every pony's socks off, she stated, the excitement apparent in her voice. Hey, DT, you're good at dancing yourself, right? Scootaloo guessed. Diamond Tiara nodded, all the while wondering what kind of ponies wear socks, and determining that Scootaloo would look adorable in some socks. Great! Scootaloo yelled, jumping off the couch and walking to the front door. She exited the building, was worried Diamond Tiara for a moment, but soon came walking back in, the pair of bongos from earlier balanced on her back. She set the bongos down on the floor carefully and sat behind them, placing one hoof on each drum bed. I figured you could dance and stuff, and I could sing a song, accompanied by a cool beat. Want to hear a song?
An opportunity to hear your melodious face serenade me as I tense upon the stage? Absolutely.
I guess, Diamond Tiara said decisively. Scootaloo raised her hooves above her head and took a deep breath. Note, for the sake of all involved, including the audience that are currently watching this particular episode, we decided to cut out Scootaloo's song. Let me just say, if you want the true appropriateness of what the following song sounds like, please find an Oko Yono record, scratch it to blazes, set it on fire, play the record at its slowest speed, and enjoy. It sounds similar to that. Signed, the management.
There is no way you are doing that at the school talent show, or anywhere for that matter. I forbid you from playing the bongos or singing in my presence ever again. How could such a melodious voice sound so hard? It doesn't make sense. Do you understand, Scootaloo?
Diamond Tiara stared at Scootaloo with the most powerful death glare she could manage. Scootaloo winced underneath its gaze. I understand. We'll think of something else, Scootaloo said, muttering under her breath how Diamond Tiara wouldn't know cool music if it hit her with a sonic rain boom. Did you see what I talked about the management earlier, Scootaloo? We had to cut it out for the sake of my sanity. I'll let you come up with the next idea. Scootaloo's gaze shifted around the room, trying very hard not to meet the very, very angry gaze of the very, very angry rich pony. And unfortunately, the moment of anger passes, Diamond Tiara began to think of ideas for the act.
Okay, DT, think. One of us is the most amazing filly in Ponyville, and the other is the most amazing filly in the entirety of Equestria. There must be something you two could do together. She suggested dancing earlier.
A vivid image suddenly formed in Diamond Tiara's mind. A ballroom, draped in various shades of red, the lighting very dim. In the middle stood two ponies, one, pink-furred, purple and white maned earth pony dressed in a beautiful wedding dress. The other, an orange furred, purple maned Pegasus dressed in a sharp black tuxedo. The two joined together and danced a slow waltz. Guys, I'm not afraid to admit this, but Beauty and the Beast is playing in my head. The love theme. It is. Although, granted, Diamond Tiara is nowhere near as awesome as the Beast. Whispering sweeps nothing to each other as time passed. And then, as the dance came to the end, the two looked deeply into each other's eyes. Their muzzles drew closer and closer until, hey, DT, you're drooling. Again. You should really get checked out. DT flinched as he quickly broke out of her fancy.
And right before the good part,
she lamented, wiping the drool from her muzzle. She then dared to ask a simple question, highly inspired by her fantasy.
Hey, Scootaloo, do you know how to dance?
Diamond Tiara, deep down hoping and praying that Scootaloo would say yes. Kind of. I mean, I never took lessons or anything, but I could learn to dance if I really tried. Why? You had something in mind?
Perfect.
Diamond Tiara thought to herself, a wide smile coming across her face. The sun was setting over the small village of Ponyville, and soon the stars would cover the sky in their majestic pattern. A small stage was set up in front of the house of the representative of the Night Court of Luna. Slowly, ponies began to set up blankets, unfurling them onto the ground, while other ponies, the vast majority being young fools, approached the stage itself, heading backstage. There was a sense of excitement and joy filling the air. In a short time the sun had set, the moon risen high into the sky, and the first stars began to dot the sky. A lone mare walked into the stage, and spoke loudly and clearly, drawing the attention of the gathered parents and family of the young performers, who would soon grace the stage.
Fillies and gentlecolts, family and friends of the performers, the great and powerful Trixie welcomes you to the Scaniel School Talent Show. But before we bring out our first act, the great and powerful Trixie would like to perform a feat of mind-blowing proportions for you. What and all, as
I told you, you could perform after for the audience after the children perform. A voice from right interrupted Trixie's speech. The show mare looked as if she was going to argue with the voice, but her eyes filled with something that could be only described as worry when her eyes traveled toward the source of the voice.
But before that, I would like to press the stage over to every pony's favorite school teacher and to introduce the first act of the night. Please give a warm round of applause to Miss Cheerilee.
Trixie said quickly before bowing stage left. For stage right, a familiar magenta mare appeared, sporting a black turban with a white trim, which, unbeknownst to the crowd gathered, Cheerilee had worn from a sallow Arabian and a slightly crooked game of poker, which looked stylish and conveniently hid Cheerilee's mane from every pony.
Thanks for coming out tonight, parents. I'd like to apologize for the sudden change of venue, but there were some complications. Suffice to say, students will no longer be allowed to handle sound equipment at school functions without adult supervision in the future. And I'd like to thank Representative Trixie so much for getting this stage set up so quickly. Without further ado, I'd like to announce the first act for tonight.
Backstage, there were nobody near as orderly and calm as they were on stage.
Has anybody seen my costume?
Is it time for makeup? What do you mean nitroglycerin hasn't arrived yet?
You tacos.
Sonata! What are you doing here?
Oh! Cameo.
I won't explode the stage this time. Please, can I use a microphone? I don't wear earrings, Scootaloo said sternly, staring disdainfully at the backstage earring with some orange stone in the middle that sat inside Tiara's hoof.
You have to wear it. Your outfit isn't complete without it,
Diamond Tiara said, a mixture of agony and desperation filling her voice.
And come on, I'm actually letting you keep your outfit, which means you can keep the earring too. Now wear it.
Diamond Tiara finished. Scootaloo brought a hip to her chin, carefully thinking of response. It only took about a second. No.
But this wasn't actually for the outfit for the show. This was picked out especially for you. Scootaloo, you are wearing this out earring, and that is final.
Diamond Tiara yelled, louder than she intended. No.
please?
Diamond Tiara asked meekly, mustering up all the abilities she had called upon so many times in her past to put her best puppy dog's eyes on, and pouting ever so slightly with her lower lip. Her daddy had no defenses against this tactic. Scootaloo seemed a bit disturbed by this display more than anything. The end result was the same. Fine! Just don't stare at me like that. It looks freaky, Scootaloo said, grabbing the earring out of Diamond Tiara's hoof, and quickly walked off for fear of losing her sanity.
She accepted my gift! Oh, I hope she likes how it looks. Oh, who am I kidding? She'll love it. I know she will. Speaking of which, how long is it until we perform? Wait, who's actually performing right now? Come on, come on! Come and see the greatest resistance we have to ever grace Russia! Come and see the great and powerful Kinky!
Dinky stood on stage, wearing a red wizard's hat and cape, the speckled crescent moons, front hose raised high into the sky, mimicking the common pose Trixie often took when she announced her presence. However, she was unable to keep her balance, and she fell backwards, landing on her flank. Her hat becoming slightly askew.
Sorry,
she said to the crowd, still looking apologetic. The crowd was suddenly, instantly won over by the cuteness on display. She really should have stuck with the cuteness.
You know, I shall be joined by my two assistants, Snips and Snails.
Snips, wearing a magician's top hat, came onto the stage, rolling a long box onto the stage. The box would have been unremarkable, except for the fact that Snails' head was sticking out one end of it. Atop the box was a very sharp-looking saw.
And now, with a few magic words, I will saw my assistant in half. And with a few more magic words, I will put them back together as good as new.
Featherweight breathed in deeply. His back legs crossed, his back leaning against the wall behind him, his forelegs sitting in his lap. He had calmed himself down if he wanted to focus on his somewhat overly complicated act. His concentration and attempts at calming himself from his stage fright were quickly dashed by a very pain-sounding scream, and then what sounded like the representative yelling, I never taught her to do that. I thought she was going to pull a rabbit out of her hat. I'm sure your little brother is fine. Please don't hurt me! It was a while before the talent show could proceed to its second act, on account of a lone Pegasus in the crowd, reacting somewhat badly to the screams emanating from the would-be saw victim, who was actually never in any real danger in the first place. All three falls involved would eventually apologize for attempting to make the act look more exciting by adding in magically enhanced screams. The great and powerful Trixie would deny any involvement with the act that occurred on stage. Diamond Tiara was standing just off stage, watching the acts go by. Between the failed first act, the skinny dweeb standing there before, just leaving without any explanation, and the two idiots whose entire act was just reciting poetry while skating around stage, Diamond Tiara was confident that her and Scootaloo's act would be considered best in show. When she saw that the next act was going to be that self-important apple filly and her nerdy friend with the lisp, she knew Scootaloo and her act would be the act that would finally entertain the crowd, since they were up after these two. She walked away, stopping in front of a full-length mirror. Diamond Tiara carefully analyzed her outfits, making sure everything went together perfectly. Diamond Tiara's trademark tiara was, in a rarity, absent from her head, instead being replaced by a bright red rose tucked into her mane. The red of the rose was matched only by the frilly Caribbean flamenco dancer's dress she wore. Embroidered on the back of the dress was the design of a rose, matching the one held in her mane. Pleased that everything was perfect with her outfit, as it should be, Diamond Tiara took a moment to see if her dance partner was ready. She took a cursory glance at the backstage area, hoping to catch a glance of her favorite Pegasus. Upon seeing neither feather nor hair the orange Pegasi anyway, she was worried that Scootaloo had ditched her. She began to walk around, abandoning her activity of watching the competition. It was about 5 minutes later that she thought to, instead of wandering around aimlessly and bugging the other foals where her partner was, to actually check the dressing rooms, where Scootaloo was more than likely changing into her outfit. As if coincidence itself had planned it, the moment the red-dressed filly had approached the dressing room, the door flew wide open, and she scurried to a breathtaking sight. The orange Pegasus also wore a Calibrian dancer's outfit, but unlike her Earth Pony dance partner, this outfit was one that would traditionally be worn by stallions. A white shirt, buttons lining the front of it, covered the filly's barrel and forelegs, a simple black vest being worn over the shirt. Scootaloo's flank and back legs were covered by a pair of black pants. Around the filly's waist was a shaz, its color matching Diamond Tiara's dress. Atop the filly's head she wore a wide-brimmed black hat, a single rose sitting upon it, and hanging from the filly's right ear was a very simple orange earring. and with a very simple orange stone in the center. Diamond Tiara felt a blush come to her cheeks as she took into the sight. Without thinking, she began to speak.
Scootaloo, you look so beautiful.
A thunderous applause erupted from the audience, breaking Diamond Tiara out of her trance, of which she was both relieved to be broken out of, and at the same time absolutely livid that she was so close to finally admitting something, only to have the chance to take it away. In her moment of frustration, she did not notice that Scootaloo had gone off to investigate the cause of the applause. Shaking her head at the thoughts that filled it, she followed this orange Pegasus, doing her best not to be distracted by how cute she looked in that outfit. When the two eventually got to the stage, just outside the audience, they did see what the applause was because of the act on stage. It much to Diamond Tiara's horror, they were just warming up.
We have to follow that!
Diamond Tiara yelled, incredulous at the display she just saw, and the applause was still refusing to wear down anytime soon, even as Apple Bloom and Twist walked out the stage, carrying the fairies props with them in 2 large wagons, filled to the brim with all manner of oddities. Diamond Tiara would never admit it, but even she was impressed with the trick they did with the spinny plates, loop-de-hoop, or whatever it was Apple Bloom called it, and the chess set. But all of that was beside the point. Diamond Tiara had to face the simple fact that, through curse or coincidence, her act was to follow an amazing act. Diamond Tiara sighed.
Scootaloo is probably as nervous as I am right now. How are we supposed to get her best in show now? Why would any pony be excited about a dance after that?
It was at that moment Diamond Tiara felt a hoof come to rest upon her shoulder. She looked up, coming face to face with Scootaloo, who was doing her best to hide her nerves with a light smile. Don't be nervous. We practiced all week for this. Every pony will love our act.
Who's he trying to convince?
Diamond Tiara thought to herself.
But thanks, I needed that. Of course they will. Just don't screw up, okay?
Ugh. The applause of the crowd was loud and appreciative. Diamond Tiara and Scootaloo, sweating ever so slightly due to a combination of nerves, bright spotlights, and how physically exhausting their routine was, bowed deeply in thanks before exiting stage left and collapsing on a pair of pillows that were just off stage for the sole purpose of rest. Diamond Tiara was so tired, she didn't even notice Scootaloo leaned against her. Hey, DT?
Yeah?
That was kinda cool.
Thanks.
Unbeknownst to them, Featherweight, after his empty performance, was instructed to take backstage pictures for the full free press. He happened to snap a picture of the 2 fillies resting together. Bebop stood on stage, an impressive-looking sound system at her side, microphone at her hoof. A short distance away, still visibly on the stage from the audience, Cheerilee stood, her front hoof covering over a big red button, conveniently labeled off. The infamously loud filly, for once, spoke into the microphone. Thank you for giving me a chance to perform. I will now sing you all a classic song. She bowed, and took a deep breath, and began to sing very, very loudly. Tractor! The sound of Phillies' voice reverberated loudly, washing its noise over the crowd. Cheerilee slammed her foot into the big red button, putting a stop to the dreaded sound system that caused potential hearing loss to the gathering crowds. Silence reigned over Ponyville for a second, until a sound, starting out slowly and quietly, bled into silence. The sounds of cracks slowly forming in a window came to the ears of the gathered ponies, all ending in a resounding crack, followed by the crinkling of glass hitting the ground. Slowly, ever so slowly, a wave of ponies all turned their heads in perfect synchronization, turning to the sounds of the noise, and beheld a very familiar sight. The front window of the residency of the representative of Night Court broken and shattered. A single cry rang out from the gathered ponies.
Why is it that only my window broke?
The eyes also saw a pony, dragging a cart filled with panes of glass, approaching the broken window. It began the process of repairing it.
Are you stalking my window?
The repair pony looked up from his work and spoke in a soft voice, which, inexplicably, was perfectly heard by everyone in the crowd. Miss Representative, your window is putting my kid through college.
For my act, I would like to throw a pot.
Alula sweated nervously, seeing all those eyes on her, particularly the eyes that were staring at the fact that she had horn and wings. Mustering up what little courage she still had, she took a small lump of clay and the noticeably shaking arrow of levitation, and floated it over to a pottery wheel that had been set up on the stage. With a sharp grunt, she threw the lump onto the center of the wheel. Then she sat upon a small stool and began to pump the pedal on the wheel, making the wheel slowly spin. A smile immediately came to the winged unicorn filly's face as she began to mold the lump into a pot. The nervousness that shook her body was all but gone, and her eyes were filled with a look of pure, uninterrupted dedication. Alula barely registered the fact that her classmates were cheering on her from off stage, until one cheer managed to break her concentration. "Yay, Princess Luna!" Lula once again became painfully aware of how much attention was being paid to her horn and wings, and her nerves gave out on her as she ducked behind the pottery wheel, in the process hitting the pedal incredibly hard, sending the clay flying off the wheel. A second later, there was a very loud shriek from stage left, and a very angry-looking Earth Pony filly in a red dress came on stage, fire in her eyes, a clump of clay in her mane. Alula saw the anger in the eyes of the school bully. All nervousness was forgotten by the more basic instinct, self-preservation. Alula ran out the stage. Dr. Tiara quickly gave chase. Cheerilee crossed onto the stage, quickly to the gathered audience.
Thank you for coming to see the annual school town show. The winners will be announced momentarily.
Before rushing out the stage, yelling at Dr. Tiara not to hurt any pony. Cheerilee looked around backstage, a horrifying mental image of Dr. Tiara beating up Alula filling her head as she ran through the backstage area. The angry filly and her victim were nowhere in sight, which did not help the image in Cheerilee's head, which was slowly getting worse and worse.
Miss Cheerilee!
A voice Sensor Mare instantly recognized as belonging to Scootaloo came rushing to her.
Miss Cheerilee! It's Dr. Tiara! She's in the dressing room and...
Cheerilee didn't wait to hear the rest of what her student was saying. Fearing the worst, she ran to the dressing room, opened it up with a slam, and began to yell,
Diamond Tiara! Don't you dare hurt!
Her voice caught in her throat when she saw the scene in front of her. Diamond Tiara was lying on the floor, eyes closed, a wide smile on her face. If Cheerilee had to guess, the young filly looked as if she was saying a very happy dream. Alula was next to the would-be bully, a short stick grabbed to the arrow of magic, poking Diamond Tiara ever so often. Cheerilee stared at the scene in front of her, her mind failing to fully comprehend what had happened. She attempted to verbalize her disbelief, to perhaps obtain information on what had happened, but found her vocal cords also temporarily failing. Instead, only to be able to vocalize a single word. What? That word seemed to have had an immediate effect on Aluna, who suddenly looked up, noticing that the teacher was there.
Miss Cheerilee, I think she's dead or something. One moment she was yelling and screaming like she usually is, and then Scootalong came running and said something to her, and suddenly Diamond Tiara just kind of froze up, and now she's like this.
Aluna said, poking Diamond Tiara once more with a stick. What? Scootaloo came rushing to the room, a worried look on her face.
Is she gonna be okay?
She yelled. The Pegasus filly, noting the blank look on her teacher's face, poked the teacher in the leg to get her attention. Cheerilee shook her head and managed to ask a simple question.
What did you say to Diamond Tiara before she went like this? All I said was that it was an accident and she shouldn't be mad, and I would even be willing to help brush her mane to make it look all nice and stuff.
That seemed to elicit a response from the dazed filly, who giggled quietly. What? Diamond Tiara was sitting in Scootaloo's wagon as the town of Ponyville went speeding past. She ignored all that as she stared disdainfully at the ribbon she had received from the talent show. Best costume. Not best in show, not greatest show ever, not even cutest couple. And what had annoyed her even more is that Scootaloo absolutely deserved the award more than she did, especially with how adorable she looked in her outfit. No, cutest couple the cutest couple award went over to Button and Sweetie Belle for their rendition of Zelda's Lullaby. The cutest couple would have went to Pipsqueak and Dinky had Pipsqueak actually came to Ponyville by this time in the series. He had not, so sadly, the cutest couple would have to go to my other most adorable fan pairing, Sweetie Belle and Button. But soon, far too soon, the scooter came to a stop in front of Diamond Tiara's house. Sighing, Diamond Tiara jumped out of the wagon and began slowly walking to her front door.
So, I guess this is it. I was able to perform on stage with Scootaloo. I spent the past week spending a lot of time with her in order to prepare, and I wish it could go on forever. I wonder if I could find some kind of dance competition we could enter together.
Donna Tiara muttered a simple good night to the orange Pegasus, who opened the door. Before she had a chance to close it, Scootaloo spoke up. Hey, DT, me and Sleepbell are going to be swimming in the lake tomorrow. Would you like to come?
Oh, yes, Scootaloo! I would be absolutely delighted to go swimming with you.
Meh, if you insist. Donna Tiara said huddily.
I expect you to pick me up when you're ready to go swimming.
Donna Tiara put a hoof onto the doorknob to close it. When she turned back at Scootaloo to say one last so.
Hey, Scootaloo. We did do good at the talent show, and we should do this again sometime.
And with that, she shut the door before Scootaloo could notice how red her face was.
I can't believe I said that!
Cue end credits! Well, this was a fun 11th episode. Well, I was reading most of these series to myself in preparation for all this. One of the big things I couldn't help but feel was one of the main characters that I felt like was getting the least amount of screen time or development was Cheerilee. Mainly because, well, with Carrot Top, we saw how helpful she had been. Trixie, well, she's always awesome. And we saw more of Lyra with Bon Bon. The main one that I kind of wish we saw more often was Cheerilee. I mean, I guess I can understand. She, unlike the others, actually had a real job.
Hey! Being the representative of the Night Court is a real job.
Yeah, Trixie, sure. That's why you have Pokey doing it. But I digress. Cheerilee has a really big job, and this keeps her out of the screen time a lot, unfortunately. But, on the bright side, this story far more than makes up for all of that. As in, we get hints to Cheerilee's past that'll play off big time in the awesomeness that is hero voting. Here's a hint. Hero voting. Can't wait. We see more sides of her. We see that sometimes she can allow her anger to cloud her mind. She is one strong mare. She does have a very, very calm head and has the patience of a freaking saint, but is willing to cheer anybody up if she sees them being sad or depressed, and is always willing to look things out with a smile. She has her limits, but we also see that they are very, very big limits. Also, we see that unless convinced otherwise, how willing she is to look on the bright side of people, or ponies, and willing to accept who they are. This was a big help for the episode to develop Cheerilee's character, but most importantly, this thing helped to flesh out, well, the school bully. Yes, Diamond Tiara. I do love the fact that this story makes Diamond Tiara something other than the bully or the antagonist for the CMC stories, which is well good and all for me. I mean, I do love that we can hate Diamond Tiara in one verse, but in this verse, we see more sides of her, which makes sense. This is an alternate universe, and as I said with Elements of Harmony and Savior of Worlds, go! Have fun with an alternate universe. See what you can change. See what you can mold. As long as you keep the characters true to who they are and their basic fundamentals, change things. See what you can mess around with. Once you add the word alternate universe, it's your sandbox, and the characters are just your little puppets. Cute little puppets, but puppets. And boy, do we get plenty of that. Diamond Tiara looking blushing and acting like Helga P. Pataki is probably some of my favorite bits of this whole entire thing. Also, her crush on Scootaloo is just freaking adorable. I love watching every single moment of it, and it's just simply dang cute! I also like hearing Scootaloo seem so not caring about it. This is also a great way to look at Scootaloo's character, as she slowly becomes into her own in this universe. We see that she can admit to her mistakes, and she feels bad about these type of things. Overall, what a fun episode to welcome all of you back to the Lunaverse. It may have taken me almost 2 months to get back to it, but what can I say? Unless the Harmony Savior Worlds took a lot of time. Speaking of a lot of time, it's time to go back. Next week, tomorrow, it's time to go back. my dear audience. Back to the beginning. What do I mean by that? Trailer.
Hello, I'm Twilight Sparkle, the student of Princess Celestia, and aren't you forgetting something? Oh, yes. Well, come on, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sunset Shimmer. I'm also a princess, the student of Princess Celestia. This is my first time appearing on this show. Thank you. Our princess has given us a strange task, actually, to go to Ponyville, to study to actually make some friends. I wish she didn't. Though, I've read the legend of Nightmare Moon. The sea is soon to come, and I'm worried. Oh, come on, Twilight. Stop being such a worrywart. It will all be fine. Now let's just go to this rinky-dink town or whatever. Coming up tomorrow, the Twin Students of the Sun by White Eyes. See you next time.